After 3 false starts, she discovered an incredible love. The CEO dad's proposal blew everyone away. Life in Winchester, Montana, could feel like an endless cycle. For Sarah, a 28-year-old waitress at the Iron Grill diner, each day melted into the next, filled with coffee refills and comforting meals for the familiar faces of her small town. But it felt unchanging, like the stubborn rust on the doorknob of her childhood home on the brink of falling apart. The laughter of her close-knit family warmed her heart, reminding her of the values instilled in her: hard work, loyalty, and the relentless pursuit of integrity. Yet, buried deep in her chest was a yearning and ache for something bigger than the horizon of the mountains that wrapped around Winchester. Then came the day she didn't expect. When a pecan pie slipped from her tray and sent her tripping. She wished she could rewind and avoid that embarrassing moment. She collided with someone who was anything but ordinary. David, a charming CEO visiting home to care for his ailing father, looked down at her with a mix of surprise and laughter, his easy smile melting the tension in Sarah's cheeks. "Guess that's one way to make an impression," he quipped, and she felt her own laughter bubble up like a forgotten joy. In that moment, something clicked. Here she was, a humble waitress, and here he was, this polished man from the outside world. Their conversations were a dance, awkward and teasing, yet laced with genuine curiosity. As they exchanged stories over slices of pie, Sarah found herself drawn to the passion flickering in David's eyes when he spoke of stirring technology in small towns, igniting ideas bigger than any she had ever dared to dream. Meanwhile, he watched her light up when she talked about community gatherings, the warmth and resilience rooted deep in Winchester's dirt. A spark ignited beneath the surface, an unspoken connection tethering them together with hopes of a life unfathomable. But then, the storm clouds rolled in. Scandal erupted, turning David's world upside down. Rumors began to bubble, as fast as wildfire in a dry summer. The townsfolk who once welcomed him now rallied against him, their whispers echoing the worst fears Sarah had of disappointing her own community. Torn between loyalty and love, she felt her heart in a vice grip. Could she stand by the man who had ignited a flicker within her heart, the same heart that beat with the rhythms of Winchester? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Standing before the townspeople at the meeting, Sarah felt the weight of every pair of eyes on her, a heavy silence pressing against her chest. "This isn't right," she cried, her voice trembling yet fierce. "David may not be from here, but he's more than just a businessman. He's shown me what it means to believe in bigger dreams." The energy in the room shifted. She could see expressions softening, the fog of doubt beginning to clear. Then, in a moment that would stitch their destinies tighter, David stepped forward, his voice breaking through the murmur, his heartfelt proposal blossoming in the charged air. All eyes turned to her as he declared his commitment not just to Sarah, but to Winchester's, to cutting through the prejudice. In that moment, as cheers erupted and hope swirled amidst the tension, Sarah found herself standing at a crossroads. Could love truly conquer all divisions? Dark shadows still loomed on the horizon. What else lay ahead to test them? The uncharted future felt both terrifying and exhilarating, weaving questions deep inside her heart. As cheers echoed through the makeshift town hall, a warmth spread through Sarah's chest. Every cheer felt like a ripple of hope washing over her, but just as quickly, doubt gnawed at her insides. She looked at David, his eyes sparkling with determination, yet shadowed with uncertainty. His world had flipped upside down, and here stood Sarah, the waitress, suddenly tangled in a drama that was anything but her own. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered, pulling David aside, out of earshot from the crowd. The noise of excitement faded to a dull hum, and in that quiet moment, there was only the two of them. The flickering candlelight danced across his face, illuminating his resolve. "I can't go back now," he replied, his voice steady despite the storm raging within him. I need to show them that I'm here for more than just business. I'm here for you. The word sent a shiver down her spine. She had never been the center of anyone's universe, but to hear him say it so boldly was intoxicating. Yet, her heart ached with the heavy truth: could a connection born in such chaos survive the scrutiny of their tight-knit town? The more she saw the sparkle in David's eyes, the more it flickered with doubt. David, what if this doesn't work? People are saying terrible things. Can we really change their minds? His gaze softened as he reached for her hand, brushing his thumb over her knuckles. When I came here, I never expected to fall for a girl in a diner. But here we are. We can't let fear decide our fate. As their fingers intertwined, Sarah felt a spark of courage. Maybe you're right. But you know the town. They love their traditions, even the ones that aren't exactly fair. Maybe it's time they learn to love something else, David said, a hint of fire lighting his voice. But the tension in the air was thick, and somewhere in the back of Sarah's mind, a storm brewed. That night, as she returned home, she found clarity in the chaos. Questions swirled in her head, echoing what they had faced so far. She felt like a ship caught between rocky shores, the safety of her hometown and the unpredictable adventure that lay with David. Her family's voices echoed in her thoughts, nurturing her spirit while simultaneously reminding her of the weight of loyalty. Days turned into weeks, and tension mounted as rumors spread faster than wildfire. Sarah found herself facing the town's scrutiny, even from those she had known all her life. What do you see in him? Some locals asked, their skepticism stark and unyielding. He's got money, but what does that mean here in Winchester? Flashes of uncertainty skated through Sarah's heart, but each time she returned to the iron grill, she caught sight of David across the room, his presence comforting like a warm cup of coffee on a winter's day. But just when she thought she could stand firm in her decision, a shocking twist confronted her. Rumors surfaced that put not only David's reputation on the line but threatened to expose her deepest fears. Was it truly possible that this love could withstand such testing storms? As doubt crept in, she questioned everything: her place in the small town, the connection she forged with David, and the love growing like wildflowers in the cracks of their reality. Would she protect their bond, or would the weight of her community's judgment drive them apart? A looming decision waited ahead, one that would change everything. No longer could she just watch from the sidelines. The moment of truth drew near. Would she stand by David, or would she retreat into the safety of her past? Sarah's heart raced as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Winchester. Each evening felt heavier than the last, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the town's whispers were closing in on her like a tightening noose. The diner buzzed with customers, the clatter of dishes and chatter filling the air as she served hot coffee and pie, but her mind was elsewhere. David's face kept invading her thoughts, every smile, every reassuring touch echoing in her heart. She felt tethered to him, yet the weight of the town's judgment threatened to pull her away. "Hey, Sarah!" shouted Liz, her co-worker, interrupting her spiraling thoughts. "Are you okay? You seem a million miles away today." "It's nothing," Sarah replied, forcing a smile. But Liz's brow furrowed in concern. "Is this about David? Because, honestly, I can't believe how people are talking. I overheard Mabel say he's using you to get into the business community. That's not fair, is it?" The words hit Sarah like a punch. Could that be what David wanted? And just like that, the flicker of hope she clung to dimmed. She couldn't let the community's judgment twist her thoughts, but doubt crept in, settling like a stone in her stomach. "Let them talk," Sarah said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "David believes in what he's doing. Does he believe in you?" Liz pressed gently, concern etching her features. "I just don't want you to get hurt." The gentle probing felt like a knife twisting in her chest. Did David believe in her? The question loomed, heavy and hollow. Harsh whispers weren't going to stop, they only seemed to grow. For weeks, Sarah had seen her friends turn cold, their laughter replaced by judgmental glances. With every rumor that floated around town, her heart shrank a little more. That night, sleepless and restless, she picked up her phone and stared at David's last message. "Let us talk. I want to reassure you." Her instincts screamed at her to reach out, to ask more, but fear held her back. Still, she knew they needed to confront this together. The next morning, she made her decision and walked into the Iron Grill, her heart pounding as she spotted David at their usual booth, his expression unable to mask the concern behind his charming facade. "Hey," she said softly, sliding into the seat across from him. "Hey," he replied, his eyes lighting up momentarily before dimming with hesitation. "I've been trying to reach you. I know it's a lot. What do you want from this?" She interrupted, the urgency spilling over the edges. The question hung heavy between them, and for a moment, the world outside faded. "I want you," he said firmly, leaning in closer, his expression unyielding. "But I also want to prove that I'm not just a businessman here to exploit the place." Is that what everyone thinks?" She cut in, her voice strong but laced with fear. "That you're just playing at being one of us?" He sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "I can't control what anyone says, but I'm not playing. This is real." "Then show me," Sarah challenged, her heart pounding as determination ignited within. Her pulse raced with a mix of fear and excitement. "Show me that you mean it. Show this town." David raised an eyebrow, surprise flashing across his face. "What are you suggesting?" "Hold a town meeting. Not just about business, about us," she said, courage pulsing through her veins. "Let everyone see that you're not just passing through." The silence hung between them, a charged moment of potential. This bold path could either bring them closer or tear their fragile bond apart. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly, eyes locked on hers. "Absolutely," she replied, surprising even herself. If they were going to fight against this storm together, they had to do it boldly. As David nodded, a slow smile began to form, but Sarah's heart quickened with a different fear. Would this meeting be a turning point or would it unleash a fury she wasn't ready to face? The decision felt monumental. Whatever happened next would mark a new chapter, willing to reach for love or retreat into fear. "All right," David said finally, determination setting his features. "Let us do this." But just as relief surged through her, a voice inside whispered doubts. What if the town's judgment proved harsher than she imagined? The stakes were rising, and their love was about to face the ultimate test. Would it withstand the scrutiny that was bound to come their way? The path ahead shimmered with uncertainty, and as she locked eyes with David, hope wrestled with apprehension. They would dive into the unknown together, but could they emerge unchanged? The sun stood ready to rise on a new day, but what would it bring to their story of love? The morning sun spilled through the window of the diner, bathing Sarah in warm light, but the warmth barely penetrated the chill in her heart. Today was the day. She had pushed David into the spotlight, and now they both had to face the town. The irony didn't escape her. She had spent her life trying to fit into a community that now felt like they were prepared to rip her apart for daring to love. As she brewed fresh coffee and plated pancakes, her mind raced. What would the townspeople say? Would David win them over? Would they see past their prejudice, past the whispers? Could they truly understand what they had built together? She felt the weight of their expectations pressing on her chest. "Sarah." Liz's voice sliced through her thoughts once again. "You ready for today? You seem tense." "Yeah, just thinking," Sarah replied, forcing cheer into her tone. "It's all going to be fine." But in her heart, doubt twisted deeper. What if they both were wrong? What if all of this was a mistake? Liz opened her mouth, ready to protest, but instead walked away, sensing that Sarah's battle was one she had to fight alone. As noon approached, the diner began to empty, shadows gathering in every corner. Sarah glanced at David, who was standing by the entrance, speaking with a group of young locals. Even from a distance, she could see him bring a smile to their faces, his laughter ringing out like a bomb. It settled her nerves. Maybe it was possible. Together, they stood in front of the town hall an hour later, a modest building that seemed to amplify every anxious whisper that rippled through the crowd. People filled the chairs, some with crossed arms, others shifting uneasily. It was a sea of skepticism and curiosity, and Sarah gripped David's hand tighter. "I've never done anything like this before," David murmured, scanning the faces before him. "Me neither," she replied, her voice steady. "But we're in this together." The room quieted down as David stepped up to the podium, his presence commanding. He cleared his throat and the familiar doubts prickled in Sarah's mind. How could he win over this crowd, when so many believed he was only here to use her and their town for his gain? "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady, resonant. "I know many of you have heard things about me, and I want to address those concerns directly. I'm not just here to sell a few houses or make a quick profit. I'm here because of Sarah." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Sarah's heartbeat quickened. She had never felt so exposed. "She has shown me the heart of this community," David continued, "and it's that heart I want to be a part of. I care about this town and its people. I want to help it thrive, not take advantage." With every word, his conviction radiated. Yet still, whispers lingered: doubt, cynicism. Some frowned, others nodded, perhaps swayed. It was a fragile balance, and Sarah held her breath, praying his sincerity could penetrate the layers of distrust. Then David turned to her, a soft smile breaking through the tension. "But more than that, I want everyone to know I love Sarah. She's my partner, and I want to build a future with her here, the kind of future that benefits all of us." Gasps echoed around the room, and for a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then, as if on cue, a wave of whispers cascaded through the crowd. It settled heavy in the air, a mixture of disbelief and budding hope. Sarah's eyes widened. She felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. Could they truly accept their love? The stakes had never been higher. Suddenly, a voice from the back called out, a familiar, sneering tone. "But we've all seen what happens when someone from outside comes in. Do you really know her, or is she just a trophy for you?" The crowd shifted again, the air thick with tension. Sarah's heart sank. "Enough." David's voice thundered, a break from the steady calm that had settled over him. "This isn't about me proving myself. This is about love, real love that can uplift us all. But it can only thrive in a community that's willing to embrace each other." The room erupted in murmurs and heated whispers. Every eye was glued to them. The battle was on. As the tension swirled, uncertainty tangled within Sarah. Would they truly embrace what they had, or would they lose everything? When the walls came crashing down, just when she thought she would collapse under the pressure, she caught David's gaze. They held each other in that moment, a silent promise amid the storm. But the deeper truth laid heavy on her heart: could love alone conquer fear and judgment? The varied expressions surrounding them hinted that the answer was still hanging in the air, just out of reach. And as her breath caught, realization hit: this moment was just the beginning, the real fight was yet to come. What would it take to turn the tide? As questions simmered and hopes flickered, Sarah felt the world narrowing to a single, heart-pounding truth: love might unite them, but it would need more than belief to survive the fallout. The murmur in the room grew louder, each voice layering atop the other like a thick fog. Sarah strained to catch snippets of conversation, but all she managed to hear was the drum of her own heartbeat. They were judging David, judging her. She could see it etched in their faces, a mix of skepticism and concern. "Who does he think he is?" one voice whispered. "Just a wolf in sheep's clothing," another added, the bitterness evident in her tone. David, sensing the rising tide of doubt, took a step back. The intensity of the crowd seemed to swallow him whole. She could see him grappling with the weight of their suspicion, and her stomach twisted painfully. "Stay strong," she murmured to him, squeezing his hand tighter. "You're doing great." But even as she spoke, a sliver of fear gnawed at her. What if her encouragement wasn't enough? They had built this love, a fragile thing fought for in the shadows, and the world was ready to snuff it out. Let him talk. Liz's voice surged from the crowd, a beacon of unity piercing through the uncertainty. We owe him that much. The tension broke slightly, and several heads turned in her direction. A glimmer of agreement stirred within the ranks. Sarah felt a pulse of hope. Maybe they didn't have to face this alone. David took a deep breath, gathering himself, and stepped forward again. I understand the fear. Living in a small town means everyone knows each other, and it's easy to be wary of outsiders. But I promise, my intentions are true. The murmurs quieted, and Sarah detected a shift in the air. He continued, I'm not just here for Sarah. I want to be part of this community. I want to listen, to learn, and to immerse myself in the life here with all of you. Some faces softened, curiosity sparking in their eyes. But the voice from the back called out once more, thick with mistrust. And what happens when you leave? What's in it for you? David met the challenge head-on. My life is built on creating connections, not just transactions, he asserted. Your town, your values, they matter deeply to me. Sarah matters deeply to me. If I go, it won't be because I wanted to profit, but because I chose to genuinely love a woman who devoted herself to this place. The crowd fell to a hush. For a moment, it felt like time stood still. Sarah couldn't breathe. Hope wavered, and then she saw a few nods, small at first, but significant. An old man in the front clapped his hands together, drawing attention. I don't believe we have to fear outsiders, he said, his voice carrying a calm authority. I think we should embrace those willing to love our own. Though, it's not just David's words that will matter. It's his actions moving forward. Apprehensive glances shifted into tentative smiles. David seized the moment. Let me show you. I want to partner with local businesses, elevate the community to new heights, and I'll do it hand in hand with you. I'm not here to change anything, only to support what you already have. Another murmur spread through the crowd, and this time it brimmed with energy. Hope began to light up dark corners of doubt. As Sarah watched the shift, an unexpected wave of strength flooded her. She felt lighter, as if chains were breaking. Would they really consider David? Was the tide truly turning? Suddenly, someone stood up, a young woman with striking determination in her eyes. If he says he loves our Sarah and wants to be a part of this town, shouldn't we give him a chance? The applause thundered involuntarily, echoing through the hall. Sarah couldn't believe it. The acceptance was tentative, but it was real, like a warmth unfurling against the cold. David lifted her hand in victory, searching her eyes, almost breathless. But just as the wave of encouragement washed over them, Sarah spotted a familiar face in the crowd. It was Miranda, her once best friend, now an opponent draped in disdain. As their eyes locked, Sarah sensed the storm that had not yet passed. What would Miranda do next? Would she align with the community's shift towards acceptance, or would she reignite the fire of hatred raging beneath the surface? In that moment, Sarah felt the chill of uncertainty creep back in. The challenge was far from over. As the crowd celebrated David's words, Sarah's eyes remained locked on Miranda, her heart thrumming with both hope and dread. Would love triumph over the shadows of the past? She could feel the weight of the town's history pushing down on them, ready to unravel any joy brought forth. And as she prepared for what was to come, one question gnawed at her: would their love survive the trials brewing on the horizon? The applause faded, replaced by an uneasy tension that prickled at Sarah's skin. Miranda's glare pierced through the room like a knife, and an unsettling thought settled heavily in her chest. This wasn't finished. David, she whispered, tugging at his sleeve, I think we need to prepare for what's coming. He glanced at her, his expression betraying a flicker of concern. What do you mean? Before she could delve deeper, Miranda stepped forward, clearing her throat to command attention. The crowd turned, and an air of expectancy filled the room. Let us talk, shall we? Her voice carried a sharp edge, and Sarah could see the way the crowd collectively held its breath. Miranda's presence had always been powerful, but it was different now, charged with a personal vendetta that Sarah hadn't anticipated. David, she began, fixing her gaze on him, it's easy to say we want to work together. But how can we trust you? You waltz in here with promises, but what happens when you leave? What happens to Sarah then? David opened his mouth to respond, but she raised her hand to halt him. You say you want to be part of this community. But what have you actually done? How do we know that this is not just some game for you? The crowd murmured again, some shifting their eyes away from Miranda's pointed accusations, while others remained captivated by her words. Sarah felt her heart race, dread swirling in her stomach. How had everything turned so sour so quickly? Enough! Liz shouted, her voice ringing out, but it was drowned out by a louder chorus of opinions. He's a stranger. Someone called. We don't know him. The doubts that had just begun to recede were now rolling back like an incoming tide. Sarah felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting dangerously. David turned to her, searching her face for answers. I'm here to prove myself. I want to show them they can trust me, he said. There was a hint of desperation in his voice, but determination shone through too. But what if they don't want proof? Sarah whispered back, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. She was terrified of losing him. More than that, she was haunted by the love she'd fought for, and now it felt threatened. Then I want to stop fighting. His response was steady, instilling a glimmer of hope in her gut, despite the turmoil surrounding them. Miranda continued her relentless questioning. What about your past, David? How does a man like you fit into the values we hold here? Wealth and charm, what do they mean in a small town setting? Values are important, David replied firmly. But I'm also about building, not just wealth. I want to invest in meaningful connections. I want my life here to be filled with purpose. Another voice rose, this time from a young man standing in front. Show us. Talk is cheap. He shouted, igniting a fresh wave of tension. The crowd shifted again, divided, some still hopeful, others restless. Why don't we let him demonstrate it? Liz suggested, her voice rising above the rest. What if he volunteers? What if we set him to work alongside us for a week? That way, we can watch him in action. A mixed reaction echoed in the hall. Some students nodded, their expressions shifting back to curiosity, but Miranda crossed her arms, clearly unimpressed. You can't just flip a switch, Liz. Trust doesn't come overnight. As whispers filled the air, Sarah looked at David, who stood firm, rain of uncertainty cascading down his face. Would that be enough? Could a week of good deeds change their minds? Fine, Miranda stated, her tone icy, let him try. But if he fails, there'll be no room for him here. The air thickened with the weight of her ultimatum. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Sarah's pulse raced as she turned to David. This was their test, a trial that would determine their fate. The specter of doubt clung to them, and she could feel the magnitude of the challenge before them. Are you up for it? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. I will be, he replied, his eyes narrowing with resolve, but deep in her chest, fear churned. Would they be able to withstand the scrutiny, the perilous journey ahead? As the crowd buzzed with mixed approval and doubt, Sarah tightened her grip on David's hand. Together, they faced an uncertain road, and she couldn't help but wonder, would love conquer the shadows lurking at every turn, or would they be swept away? Eyes now focused on them, the weight of their choice heavy in the air. Sarah thought about Miranda's warning. If David faltered, could it really mean the end for them, and what would they do if the test crumbled their fragile hope? The meeting disbanded, but the tension lingered like thick fog. Sarah and David stepped outside, the cool evening air wrapping around them, a stark contrast to the heated discussions inside. She knew the stakes were high, yet the adrenaline coursing through her veins carried a mix of dread and anticipation. "Are you really going to do this?" Sarah asked as they walked toward the car. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her fear. "A week? What if they just keep stacking the odds against you?" David paused, turning to face her. "I have to try, Sarah. For us. For you." His eyes were serious, and she could sense the resolve behind them. "I can't let Miranda dictate our future. We deserve a chance." Her heart swelled at his words, yet an uneasy feeling twisted in her gut. "But what if something goes wrong? What if you fail, David? It could ruin everything for both of us." He reached out, taking her hands in his. "If I do fail, I won't give up. I'll find a way to make it right. I promise you that." Sarah nodded slowly, trying to absorb his conviction. But as they drove home, an unexpected silence fell between them. The weight of unspoken fears pressed down on her as the vibrant glow of streetlights blurred past the window. The next morning, Sarah woke earlier than usual, a mix of determination and anxiety fueling her. She scrolled through messages from her friends, many expressing support, some sharing doubt. "Keep your chin up," one her best friends texted. "He'll show them who he really is." But doubt still nibbled at her thoughts. They had to rally the community behind David, and if his first day didn't go well, she shook her head, casting away the creeping negativity. Today was about proving them all wrong. They could beat the odds together. At the community center, preparations buzzed with energy. David arrived, his usual polished self, but there was an edge of nerves evident in his movements. He took a deep breath before stepping into the fray of eager volunteers, his purpose clear. "Welcome, everyone," he called, voice steady. "I'm looking forward to working alongside you. I want to learn about what this community means to you." The ice of skepticism turned thick as members greeted him with polite nods, their expressions a measured mix of curiosity and caution. Miranda was there, arms crossed and an unimpressed look on her face, ready to scrutinize every effort he made. "First task," David began, glancing at the clipboard clutched under his arm. "Let South clean the park and plant some new trees." He handed out tools and set the volunteers in motion, his enthusiasm infectious. As they dug into the dirt, some initially hesitant began to join him, laughter spilling out as they shared stories. With every tree they planted, he made personal connections, and for a while, the tension eased. Sarah stood back, watching the transformation. David was working hard not just to prove himself but to engage with them on a human level. Her heart soared at the sight, but doubt began to creep back once she noticed Miranda whispering with the others, eyes narrowed, clearly plotting her next move. "Got to hand it to him," Miranda said loudly enough for the group to hear. "Just a show, right? Let us see how long he can keep this up." Sarah felt a surge of anger rise within. "Stop it, Miranda. Everyone can change. Can't you at least give him a chance?" Miranda's gaze shifted to her, surprise cutting through her facade. But before she could reply, a large gust of wind swept through the park, knocking over the newly planted saplings. That was her moment to shine, wasn't it? "David!" she called, her voice breaking through the chatter. This was just a little setback, right? But as she looked around, she could see the doubts bubbling back to the surface. Would today be enough to change minds? Or would it unravel into a disaster? With tension mounting like a storm, Sarah realized she had to act. She couldn't let fear cloud her perception. She took a deep breath and pushed forward, ready to fight for David, their love, and their future. One moment could shift everything. And with each heartbeat echoing the fragility of their hopes, she prepared to stand tall. As she maneuvered through the crowd, ready to rally support, a thought cut through her: would this unexpected storm strengthen their resolve, or would it expose cracks that couldn't be mended? Sarah rushed toward David, determination flooding her veins. "We can fix this!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the air like lightning. She could see that David's smile faltered as he crouched by the fallen saplings, his hands clenched into fists on the ground. "Is anyone even listening?" he mumbled, frustration bleeding into his tone. His spirit, once lively, now seemed dimmed by doubt. The wind whipped around them, carrying murmurs of disapproval from the crowd. "Hey!" Sarah exclaimed, drawing everyone's attention. "This isn't just about planting trees. It's about building something together. One bad moment doesn't define what we can achieve." She planted her feet firmly, locking eyes with Miranda. "We'll grow stronger from this. Just watch." Miranda scoffed, but the uncertainty in her eyes revealed the crack in her armor. David straightened, eyes meeting Sarah's. As they shared that silent connection, she felt hope igniting. "Let us set this right," he said, rising to his feet and brushing the dirt off his knees. The sun peeked through the clouds, bathing them in a soft glow. "We'll replant these trees together." His voice regained its strength, and a few volunteers exchanged inspired glances. With renewed fervor, the group set to work. They picked up the fallen saplings and began to brush away the dirt. Sarah noticed how David encouraged each volunteer, praising their efforts and reminding them that setbacks happen. They laughed and shared stories, and slowly, the skepticism in the air began to lift. "See?" she whispered to David as they worked side by side. "You're winning them over." "Thanks to you," he said, glancing at her with a grateful smile. "I couldn't do this without your support." As the trees found their place in the ground once more, a warmth spread in Sarah's chest. Perhaps this wasn't just about transforming the community but also themselves. Suddenly, the ground rumbled beneath their feet. The sharp crack of a branch from above sent ripples of panic through the crowd. Sarah froze, eyes darting. A heavy branch broke loose from a nearby tree, plummeting towards a group of kids who had been playing nearby. "Get down!" someone shouted, but it felt like time slowed. The fear blossomed in her chest again, pushing aside all the progress they had just made. Without thinking, Sarah surged forward, throwing herself toward the children. David sprang into action too, moving faster than she'd ever seen him before. Together, they shielded the kids just in time. The branch hit the ground, splintering beside them instead of crushing them. Heart pounding, Sarah turned to the kids. "Are you okay?" They nodded, faces wide-eyed with shock. "Stay close to us," David urged, still breathing heavily. He remained crouched protectively over them. For a few moments, everything felt suspended. All the tension, all the fear. They were reminded of what truly mattered. Once they confirmed the kids were safe, murmurs spread through the crowd. This experience had brought them closer, uniting them against a common threat. "Now this," Miranda finally spoke, surprising everyone, "is what I call leadership." David glanced at Sarah with a mix of disbelief and pride. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah. I did." Her smile felt stronger this time, as if their bond had been forged in that instant. With an unexpected spirit swelling up in the crowd, the laughter resumed, and conversation started to flow like a gentle stream. Sarah felt elation intertwining with relief. They'd faced a storm, and together, somehow they'd come out stronger, but before she could celebrate fully, she felt a shift in the air. The crowd was buzzing with the topic of the day, but what it would lead to was still unclear. Would they finally embrace David as one of their own, or would doubt rear its ugly head again? As she watched David interact with the community, a knot of apprehension tightened in her gut. She realized this moment of calm might just be the calm before another storm. What would happen next? Would they finally turn a corner, or was something much bigger lurking just beyond the horizon? The question weighed heavily on her heart. The laughter echoed through the crowd, but Sarah's apprehension remained, an unwelcome companion trailing her every step. David was animated now, fully engaging with the volunteers, yet the lingering shadow of doubt loomed over her like a thick fog. She had seen how quickly spirits could drop, how easily progress could be undone. As they worked, David caught her gaze. "You all right?" he asked, brushing sweat from his brow. Yeah, just thinking, she replied, forcing a smile. Everything feels good, but what? He leaned closer, genuinely concerned. What if they don't trust you after this? What if all it takes is one more mistake to send everything crashing down? Her words spilled out, each syllable laced with the fear that clung to her like a second skin. David's expression shifted, but before he could respond, Miranda stepped forward, clapping her hands. All right everyone, let us gather around. We've got something to discuss. The crowd hushed, curiosity piqued. Sarah's heart raced. Had they come together simply to share doubts, or was this a pivotal moment for David? The tension in the air electrified her nerves. First, I want to say, Miranda began, glancing at David, that what happened today was astounding. You both showed true leadership. The crowd murmured in agreement, and Sarah felt a spark of hope. David's face lit up, and that warmth radiated throughout the gathering. But we need to address the elephant in the room, Miranda continued. Today wasn't just an accident. It was a reminder of how fragile our plans can be. We can't rush forward without being ready. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. That tight knot in her stomach twisted painfully. Here we go, she thought, ready for the impending critique. Miranda caught Sarah's gaze briefly, her intensity shifting. What should come next? Isn't just about planting trees. It's about building trust, opening ourselves up to each other. She paused, scanning the crowd. We need to make sure everyone feels heard. Everyone contributes. So, here's my proposal. Sarah leaned in, holding her breath. If this was about setting new rules, would David be pushed aside again? I propose we hold a meeting next week, Miranda was saying, a town hall where anyone can voice their concerns or suggestions. I want everyone to have a chance to share their thoughts, to shape what this community becomes. And if the idea takes off, we move forward with our plans together. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some were nodding, others remained skeptical. But David's face relaxed with relief, the burden of doubt lifting just slightly. If we can gain their trust, we can embrace David as part of our community, Sarah thought, the hope warming her chest again. Absolutely. David chimed in, pitching his voice above the chatter. This is great. Thank you for suggesting it, Miranda. I want to be transparent. I'm here to help. His earnestness drew a few smiles, and Sarah held on to every one of them, but then, out of nowhere, Jason from the group shouted, how do we know you'll listen? You've made mistakes already. The crowd hushed again, the weight of his words hanging heavily. We all make mistakes, David answered, his voice steady. But I'll be here, and I'll learn. I want this community to feel like home. If I fail, I want to know why. As he spoke, Sarah saw something shift. Faces began to soften, eyes sparkled with possibility. Restore trust instead of rebuild. He might actually pull this off, but then she saw Miranda's expression change subtly, her jaw tightening. What was she thinking? Just as Sarah began to feel the unease dissipate, a crackle of energy resurfaced, filling her with a sense of impending change. What was meant to be a new beginning seemed on the brink of collapsing again. The question of unity hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. Would the community really rally behind David, or would their past errors drag them under again? As Sarah watched the crowd, her heart ached with hope and dread intertwined. The night wasn't over. What other challenges would arise in the coming days? And would their efforts to stand together falter in the light of fresh doubts? The days turned into a whirlwind of anticipation and anxiety as the town meeting approached. David worked tirelessly during the week, immersing himself in community projects and slowly earning the trust of some townsfolk. There were moments of humor and connection, but beneath the surface, Sarah sensed the tension bubbling just below. The looming meeting felt like a storm waiting to break, and she could hardly breathe with uncertainty. On the evening of the meeting, the community center buzzed with a nervous energy. As townsfolk filtered in and took their seats, Sarah felt an electric sensation in the air. Would this be the moment they embraced David, or would it turn out to be the final nail in the coffin of their fragile relationship? David stood beside her, his handsome face etched with determination. "Remember, we're in this together," he whispered, squeezing her hand gently. "Whatever happens, I won't back down." The room filled, whispers and murmurs mixing into a cacophony as Miranda took the stage first. "Thank you all for coming tonight. We're here to discuss our future as a community and whether we can welcome new voices," she began, her tone firm. Eyes darted around the room, skepticism edging the faces of many listeners. Sarah's heart raced. This wasn't just a conversation, it felt like a battle. Elizabeth, one of Sarah's friends, stood up, her voice rising. "David has shown us he wants to invest in Winchester. This is our chance to unite." Supportive murmurs rose from a few, but others remained stone-faced, unwilling to budge. "Invest? Or exploit?" A voice challenged from the back. The crowd hushed again, the skepticism resurfacing like a dark cloud overhead. David stepped forward, his jaw tightening, yet his eyes remained unwavering. "I'm not here to exploit anyone or anything. I want to prove that I can contribute, but I need your trust. We'll build together, and I promise you won't regret it." The crowd hesitated, torn between skepticism and the flickering light of belief. Questions stormed forth. What did it mean to invest in their town? Did he even understand their values? Each inquiry rang like drumbeats in Sarah's chest, and she fought to maintain her composure. Then, Miranda spoke, her voice sharp. "Actions speak louder than words, David. Words can be pretty, but what can you really bring to the table?" "Let me show you," David replied, his voice calm yet intense. "Starting next week, I'll be launching a community initiative. I want to work with you all, local businesses, schools, families, to strengthen our ties." He looked at Sarah, vibrant hope flashing in his eyes. "A business incubator. Let us support one another." The murmur rippled through the crowd, and the possibility hung in the air like a sweet aroma. "Good things perhaps. But promises are easy," Miranda challenged again, crossing her arms. "What will it take to make you stick around, David? A lucrative contract? Or actual commitment?" Her voice held the weight of doubt that shadowed their love. The questions began swirling around like a tornado, prying at the heart of Sarah's promise to David. "Commitment isn't something I can buy," David asserted. "It's built through actions that speak louder than any promise I can make. I want to listen, learn, and immerse myself in the community. I want to show everyone that I'm here to help, not just financially, but emotionally." The fire behind his words ignited murmurs of contemplation, and Sarah felt her heart swell. Maybe they could turn this around. A voice from the audience echoed with doubt. "If you're really so invested in us, how do we know you'll stay?" It was heavy, casting an unexpectedly long shadow over the gathering. "Because I'm not going anywhere," David replied firmly, locking eyes with every speaker in front of him. "And because the moment I met Sarah, I felt a connection that drew me home, right here." His words caused a stir, and a collective gasp echoed through the room. "I want to lift this place up, alongside all of you. I want Sarah and this community to thrive together." A slow wave of realization rippled through the crowd. Sarah watched as faces began to soften. Hope edged its way back to the surface. Then, Miranda gave a reluctant nod, and her voice softened, dropping the sharper tones. "If you mean that, we'll work with you. But this is just the beginning." The agreement hung in the air, thick with possibility. As applause erupted around them, Sarah experienced a rush of relief unlike any she had felt before. A tide of support surged forward, embracing not just David but their love in the process. The intertwined lives of Winchester and David's world began to feel less like clashing entities and more like parts of a whole. Later, as they stood in the parking lot beneath a sky dotted with stars, Sarah looked at David, her eyes glimmering. "You really did it. They're starting to believe." His smile lit up his face, a blend of joy and disbelief. but beneath that lay a shared understanding, they'd taken a monumental leap together. For us, he said softly, lifting her hand to his lips and kissing it gently. For all of us, she replied, filled with belief and warmth radiating through her chest. They stood side by side, basking in the aftermath of their battle, the fight for their love and future, conquering each forbidding sentiment that had once threatened to divide them. They would face whatever came next together. They would grow, not just as a couple but alongside their community. And as they turned away from the town hall, embarking on an unknown journey ahead, Sarah felt a quiet sense of hope bloom in her heart. No longer did she have to tiptoe between loyalties, she had chosen love, real love, and this love was worth fighting for. It was time to embrace that love fully and transform their lives as they always dreamed. Now it's your turn to transform your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, let us hear it. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.